Welcome back to This American Ride podcast, where we talk about issues that affect you, the average American. What's up, and welcome back to this week's of This American Ride podcast. Man, we got some stuff going on. We're talking about very American stuff today, I feel like.
Talking about some of my favorite stuff.
And nothing more American than the pigskin.
That's right. Yeah, so, we got football starting next week. NFL season kicks off. College is kind of already underway with their little week 0 they just had this past week. But we figured in honor of the season starting, we would kind of dive into a little NFL talk. Not only, our teams and do a little, preseason discussion on our individual teams, but also just the state of the NFL and everything that's going on with the NFL. And it's the last few years, actually, it's 7 years now. They've been kind of a controversial topic when it becomes, politics and the sports. They kind of clashed a few years back and lost a lot of viewers because of it. So kind of just wanted to touch on that and see where people are with that, see where you are with that, and then just talk about some football.
Yeah, so I feel like all sports have gone through something that has driven the fan base out at some point. I mean, baseball's had its strikes. Baseball people flock back to baseball. I feel like baseball fans are baseball fans. Hockey, the last hockey strike, and there's probably people listening to this that aren't even old enough to remember this last hockey strike, but I feel like the last hockey strike was in the early 2000s, like 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. And that I was done with hockey after that. I mean, I'll still, if the Flyers on, I'll still watch a game, but I'm not, sitting down to watch hockey games.
So you were done with hockey because of the strike?
I was so aggravated over that strike.
Because guys wanted to get paid more?
Because guys wanted to get paid more. It was just I was just mad because, nobody could come to an agreement. I don't think it was anger at the players, so to say, as much as maybe it was anger of the owners too. But I was just mad that people couldn't come to an agreement. And these are people that are making tons of money. Everybody's making a ton of money. Let's not kill ourselves here. So everybody makes a ton of money, and we as fans, especially if you were going to hockey games, those tickets were expensive then. I feel like they were more expensive then, maybe even than they are now.
Have you looked at tickets lately?
I've looked at Flyers tickets, and I know I can get in for $35. So,
are you sure?
I'm positive, 100% positive.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up while we're on here.
Pull that up, baby.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The strikes thing is one of the things it's annoying, especially for someone who's just anxious for a season or whatever, and now it all gets kind of shut down. But it's never been anything that would push me to stop watching a sport.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This was different.
I
feel like this was different, though. This was different. These past several years, the NFL were different. And, we had, obviously, different opinions and probably different behaviors over the whole thing. But, the argument for those of you who might have been living in a shell was the fact that guys were kneeling during the national anthem. And to take a step further of players kneeling during the national anthem, television was making a spectacle of it and giving them a stage.
Yeah.
That
whole thing kind of ended up kind of funny though, because the media and the channels wanted to highlight it and make a big stink over it until they realized it did start affecting the ratings, and then they really quickly stopped showing it.
Yeah.
So it shows you the hypocrisy with that.
Well, I think they thought they were going to capitalize on something like, yay, wokeness in the NFL, yay.
Yeah.
And that's not the fan base, man. And it is what it is. I did not watch games for a year.
There's still people. I know people that never came back from that.
Yeah.
But when that started happening, now NFL led the way with that, and it was the biggest notoriety. But almost all the leagues did it to some extent. Mm-hmm. So I find it funny if you stop watching the NFL over it, but you're still watching another sport. I find that kind of funny.
Yeah,
because it's a little bit
hypocritical.
Just a little. If you felt strongly enough about it to never watch football again, you can't watch MLB.
No, you certainly can't.
You know what I mean?
They were a little. They tried to be a little more subtle about it. I feel like hockey didn't embrace it though.
No, they
I
didn't.
feel like hockey like took a stand and was like, "This is not us."
I feel like the managers and the ownerships kind of nipped that in the bud real quick in hockey.
Yeah.
But obviously the NBA did it big. They were probably the second biggest to the NFL. Maybe even worse if you think about percentages of players doing it. You know.
There's not much getting me to watch the NBA.
But so let's
doesn't matter.
No, absolutely not. But so let's kind of. Have you ever been the kind of fan of any sport where you didn't miss a game, like that die hard to where you were watching, you made your plans around it, like you didn't miss it?
So, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say because growing up, like in my household growing up, the Eagles games were an institution. It got the family together. We all got together. We ate dinner. We watched an Eagles game. I mean, you know, I can still like remember my uncle's excitement when the Eagles drafted, you know, Deuce Staley, or his excitement when Ron Jaworski would make like a big play. You know what I mean? Like those are like the childhood memories, you know, when Carmichael would catch a ball. Those are the childhood memories, you know, that I have around football, and everybody being like crammed in this tiny little living room, you know, at my aunt and uncle's house up in, you know, Trenton and Hamilton, and watching this football game. And there was nobody more excited about it than my Uncle Jim. And that was kind of, you know, he was the man who like led the Eagles charge in my family, because the family was typically from North Jersey. Mm-hmm. My father did not grow up an Eagles fan. He was a convert. And even then he was like a very shaky convert. But I mean, he was a Jets and Giants fan, mostly a Jets fan.
I don't understand that either.
Yeah, well,
how are you Jets and Giants?
Well, it's because
they don't really
North Jersey, man. And I think if you were born in the 40s and you were like coming up like through that era, you had the Giants, and then you had I don't know, I can't explain. I know a lot of people who do root for both teams, but you know, won't admit being Jets fans.
I think we talked about the fence sitters in a previous episode. The fence sitters in life,
fence sitters in football.
You can't be a fan of two teams. You just can't.
But I mean, for me, it's, you know, and very much like you, for me, it's Philly or nothing. And I don't, you know, ever, even when I moved to North Jersey and we lived in Hoboken, I found the Eagles bar, like you found Steelers bars around, you know, when you've been away. I found the Eagles bar, would go there and watch Eagles games. Or I would drive south far enough to like come see my cousin, you know, and we watched a game in Trenton, because that was about as far north as you're going to get an Eagles game. Yeah. So I did go out of my way to watch games. Did I schedule my entire life around them?
Yeah. So more as like as an adult, you know, that's kind of where I'm going. I get the kid, you know, as the family and the kid thing, and the, you know, your whole family being Eagles fans, stuff like that. But I just mean, since you become adult out on your own, I'm just trying to set the kind of level of fandom that we're talking about, both for you and for I.
Let these people know I am an above average Eagles fan, but I in no way compare to you as a Steelers fan.
Yeah, and you know, and I know that you're like more, and you're kind of like Philly sports in general, right? And I've obviously adopted Pittsburgh as my, you know, sports city, but it's not even comparable, like the levels of fandom, like from the Steelers to then, you know, the Penguins and the Pirates. Obviously don't have a basketball team, but
you do get excited over the Pirates though when they do well, I feel like.
Yeah, and I really enjoy watching hockey. I do enjoy when the Penguins are winning, but it just doesn't compare to my fandom for football and for the Steelers. So I was just asking that to try to, you know, let the people know like kind of where we stand on that, because I mean I've like not gone to things in life, you know, like maybe even significant moments in life, because somebody scheduled something, you know, on a Sunday in the fall, and I'm like, no, I'm watching the Steelers. There's been weddings, you know, that I may or may not have made excuses to get out of because it was on a Sunday in the fall. That's kind of the level I'm at. I'm pretty diehard, and my wife, you know, does the whole thing and goes into mourning for the however many months the season is, where Sundays I'm MIA. I'm not available basically all day Sunday.
But people need to understand, though, also getting into this, it's not just, I mean, the Steelers are your thing. how many TVs are in the basement, and how many games do you watch on a Sunday?
So I built it up last year. I had it probably, so the big screen where I'm watching Steelers, and then I had 3 or 4 other TVs with other games on. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a football fan, a diehard football fan to begin with, and then the Steelers is next level. But, yeah, so I want to have I'm a whole nother subject, but I'm, into the fantasy football too. So I'm keeping an eye on things other than just my Steelers, right? So I have, and I got to know what the division hated, rival teams are doing. So I'll have, Baltimore on one screen, and I'll have, Cincy on another, and then I'll have Red Zone on another so I can see them all. And then I got the Steelers. So that's kind of, I have, nice little setup down there to enjoy the day and sit in the dark and watch games and lose a whole day.
And that's the thing, like when there's other games on, like if the Eagles have a bye week on a Sunday, I'm probably not sitting down to watch football.
Right.
And that's a thing. It's like I'm not a football fan, I'm an Eagles fan. Do I watch games that are not Eagles games? Yes. I'll watch some Monday night games, I'll watch some Thursday night games. I won't be vested in them like I am a Philly game. I probably won't stay up to the end of them on a Monday night, like a Philly game. And when the playoffs get here, I'll watch the playoffs because I think playoff football is, next level.
Yeah, I mean, they're all the playoff games are fun to watch for me anyway. But so as far as,
that's the stage.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are on that. But so as far as the league itself, it took that big hit when that stuff started, and you had a lot of people walk away. And I feel like a lot of people didn't come back, but their ratings never really hurt them that bad.
It must have, though. Something hurt. So something hurt them enough to stop showing the craziness.
Yeah,
there was impact somewhere. I don't know where personally.
Yeah,
had to be monetary.
I feel like that was. I don't know if they're different, but I feel like it was more the networks than the league that were worried about that hit.
Mm-hmm. It could have been,
because you had Goodell who refused to stop it when he could have.
Yeah,
right. You can stop it. See, that was the one thing that always cracked me up about it. My biggest gripe on the whole thing was I don't care about your stance, and I'm not taking away your right to these protests and have these opinions. But did everybody forget that they were on the company clock, and no one has a right to protest and do anything like that when you're representing your company on the clock? Look at the military, right? They're allowed to go to protest, right? Are they allowed to wear their uniform? No, right? I mean, it's your job. You can't go if you went protesting and you were wearing your company's, uniform. You're going to be in trouble.
Yeah,
that's across the board, and everybody seemed to lose sight of that. Like, oh, they have a right to this. No, they don't. And the biggest thing that ticked me off was that they have a massive platform to begin with, not on game day. Anywhere they go, they're celebrities, most of these guys, right? And they have huge followings on social media, and they're on TV all the time, and they have all this access to these platforms. They can get their message out, and you're doing it on the company clock. That's what I was like, I don't understand why people don't understand that that's not okay, and that why they think they should be allowed to get away with that.
Yeah, and to even unfold that one step further, people who might be ignorant to the ways of the NFL, these players, they have to wear their socks a certain way. They have to wear their uniforms a certain way. Otherwise, the league fines them. People don't understand that. The other thing is there have been players who have been fined for wearing sneakers that represent a charitable cause that were a different color than, there were breast cancer awareness guys who wore pink shoes outside of the NFL allotted breast cancer awareness games.
Yeah.
And they were fined. And you see all these, what I think are petty fines of causes that I guess in my eyes that are causes that are, something that a stage can bring some good to. The
league came around to that. And because of that, they developed that whole call "My Cleats, My Cause" thing, and they embraced it, right? And they work with that's what drives me nuts is they work with these guys and they try to do everything they can for them to have a voice. So when they were doing that, and what most people many people, even not half of the people thought, they were disrespecting the flag and the national anthem and the military when they decided to choose that as their time to protest.
Yeah.
The league has always bent over backwards for these guys. Yes, they have their rules and they have some pretty cheesy, petty fines, but they usually work with the players union and come around in some way or form and do something for them.
Yeah.
So for them to act like, they're oppressed when they're, the crappiest guy in the field is making more than most people will ever even come close to in a year,
the least oppressed people in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
pretty ridiculous.
What was his name? I forget his name, from the San Francisco 49ers.
Kaepernick.
Yeah. He grew up a wealthy, he was adopted, but he grew up wealthy. He never struggled for anything. And, here he's like the poster child for the oppressed cause. It's just like...
Yeah, that guy's still clinging to any kind of limelight he can get, even most recently where he came out, kind of bashing his adopted family, So that guy's a joke. And that was the other thing that drove me nuts, is that people wanted to act like, oh, well, he knelt and he took a stand and now they're punishing him. Hello, he was benched long before that. That's what most people felt that was his reason for doing it, because he got benched, he was sitting on the bench, and he needed some attention, so this is what he started doing. Mm-hmm. He didn't lose his job because he started protesting.
He lost his job because he wasn't good.
He lost his job because he wasn't winning and he wasn't productive.
Right.
And he had his run. He had a stretch where he was, but the league figured him out, just like they do a lot of guys. Mm-hmm. So that whole thing just drove me nuts. But I know they lost a lot of people. I know a lot of the older people really, the older fans, took real offense to that and weren't willing to come back. But
and I often wonder if I lived in a different part of the country, and I know people, from other parts of the country that don't have a big NFL presence, that have this huge college, football presence. Like, would it have been easy for me to walk away entirely? And I mean, I think no, because I have so many childhood connections and so much stuff
just vested,
to the team. But I think it was easier for people to walk away who, college football is such a big part of their life. And
plus, how many of those people were just
not huge NFL fans?
They were NFL fans, but maybe didn't, like you said, there was no team in their region or whatever. So they were just kind of watching the NFL. So it's really easy to walk away when you're not as vested for 30 years in a team and all the emotions that go into that.
Yeah.
I wasn't willing to think about the number of people on an NFL team and then, multiply that by 32 and then think about the actual number of knuckleheads that were doing that. I wasn't willing to let that small percentage of people who never going to be eye to eye with anyone on probably any kind of social justice issues. So I wasn't willing to let them ruin the NFL and the sport for me. That's why other people were like, I don't know how you can watch it. Well, because I wasn't willing to let those people's opinion that got blown up, because of the TV and stuff, like ruin a sport for me that I've loved since I was 7-8 years old,
I just wanted the league to stop it. And probably my largest hate is with Roger Goodell. I think that guy is a complete tool. And maybe he'll hear this podcast. Who knows? But he is judge, jury, and executioner of this league, and is legislating, the fun out of it. I mean, like Rich Eisen said one day, I'm going to sit down with my grandkids and say, "Hey, kids, look, this was a kickoff.
Yeah,
this is what they did during a kickoff." So. And I mean, that's a whole another thing about, a whole another aspect of the game that he affects, but he's not, you can't be judge, jury, and executioner. And with the way this league is set up, it's just not.
And I feel in recent years, in the last few years, I know that he's tried to make it a point to not do that, so that these, because I know when there was, Ray Rice and some of these other guys that had major off the field issues, that was at that time, like he pretty much, like you said, judge, jury, and executioner. He decided what happened, and I know he's gotten away from that and they've given that to other people so that they can't accuse him of that anymore, and he's tried to take a step back from that.
Yeah.
But the damage was kind of done, with some of the stuff that happened with off the field stuff in the past, and the hiding the video, and originally like giving a slap on the wrist to Rice, and then the video comes out, and all of a sudden then they change their tune and they want to come down hard on him, and it's just so wishy-washy, and it was just really not transparent, and I think a lot of fans took offense to that.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things, and I don't know. I just
I'm not a fan for sure.
I'm not a fan of the guy,
not a fan.
and it's a crooked situation where until he decides to step aside, he's going to be in that chair because that's kind of how the NFL is set up.
Yeah, well, because regardless of the things he does that the fans don't like, the sport itself and the numbers for the league have just gone up and up and up and up over the years, and the owners like him, and that's what matters. He works for them.
Yep.
So until he ticks them off, he's not going anywhere. And I believe they just talked about it. He's gonna get another big contract, and he'll be around for a while.
I mean, it's like the London Jaguars. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, I mean, that's the whole thing. And now we're gonna.
Well, that's a fantastic transition to the next topic I want to talk about.
Unscripted,
because that is legit where I wanted to go next with these overseas games.
Yeah, not a fan.
I hate to say, throw out that they're being greedy thing, right? Because capitalism, that obviously they want to make as much money as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as too much, but at what cost? Because you're trying to force this stuff down the throats of these other, these people in other countries at the expense of people back here losing out these games, which, let's be honest, unlike any other sport, it's not like baseball, basketball, hockey, where you have 60 or over 100 games in those seasons.
Yep.
It's once a week for 17 games. They only have so many, and the home team, a fan, if you're local, only has so many games to begin with to go with. And now you're snagging one or two of those to force them over into countries where I don't know that they're that excited about it. Let's be honest. The NFL Europe had a shot, and they could get no traction.
No love.
And people didn't want to watch it. Now, I get it. That was more like minor leagues because that wasn't our stars. But I don't know why they'd want to watch it with what we put over there recently, because they continue to pick these teams and throw them over there, and they're the worst games of the year.
And it's not only that. It's listen, them being the worst games of the year, is it a reflection of this? Is it a reflection of some of these schedules are tight? You've got Monday night games, Thursday night games, and now you're going to, take a 12-hour time difference and travel in between like two of those games, and you're going to play that game, which is not there's nothing good about that game for the U.S. fan base. I mean, those games are like 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning, and all that is, I feel like the bigger picture of that is just to have more TV time in the U.S. and to start blocking football up on a Sunday from like 8:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's got more to do with that than it has to do with the fans in Europe.
Because I don't know if there's any way to do it, but I'd love to know when they have these games in England, how many of those fans in the stadium are Americans that are there because military bases, deployments, working over there. How many of those people are Americans? Because I bet you it's a big chunk of what shows up at that stadium.
Fans look rowdy. I mean, the fans, when you look at those games, the fans in the stands and whoever they may be, they are clearly loud. They're clearly enjoying the game, and oddly enough, it seems like they are loud for both teams. Like, they're
just having a good time drinking.
There is no home field advantage there.
No,
you know what I mean? Like if Peyton Manning had to go to England to play a game, he would have been at a huge disadvantage. Because when Peyton Manning and people, if you've never seen a Colts home game, when Peyton was the quarterback, that you could hear a pin drop in that stadium. That stadium was quiet when he was conducting.
They were trained.
Yeah,
they were trained. But so we went from, trying it out with one game to 2 games. We have 5 overseas games this year.
London, Spain, Mexico.
No, there's 2 in London.
2 in London.
There's 1 in Germany.
Oh, Germany.
There's Mexico. I think there's 3 in London. Is there Spain? I don't think there's a Spain game.
Maybe it's Germany. I'm confusing Germany for Spain.
I feel like they took it to 3 England, 1 Germany, and 1 Mexico.
And Mexico.
I could be wrong. You can correct me on that, but I felt like that's what it was. But either way,
it's a lot
I know
of games.
Germany's the new one. Like they added that in there. They've done the Mexico and they've done the England, but they just keep adding them.
I think the goal is and part of expanding the schedule, and the goal is to have 1 European game.
It's never going to work.
Every Sunday. Listen, man.
It's never going to.
I can't stand it.
They already have a massive dilemma, just East Coast, West Coast travel.
Huge.
And the crying that comes with that. Now you're going to have an international flight 8-9 times a year, more than that, because you got preseason game, and then if God forbid you make the playoffs, you're at 9-10 times a year. They're doing that kind of flight. That's a disadvantage.
We're gonna send the 49ers to London. You know what I mean? Like, holy cow, people don't think about that stuff.
Right.
And even what people don't think about the transcontinental thing is nothing made me happier than seeing the 49ers have to come to Philly to play that playoff game last year, to play that NFC Championship game last year. Because I will tell you.
It's a huge advantage.
Huge. Can't get through a show without it. Because the Eagles don't play well when they got to fly to the West Coast. They never have my entire life, and I don't care who the team was. The Eagles have never played well flying to the West Coast. We've lost a slew of playoff games going west. Arizona, whether it's Arizona, San Francisco, I mean, we've just been.
It's a huge advantage either way. I mean, it's even worse for the West Coasters coming to the East, but either way, it's a huge advantage. So I know it's been thrown out there. I just don't. I'll be surprised if they ever make it work.
Yeah.
So, what are you looking at there?
So I got stuff here. Let me pull up this schedule. So,
well, before you get to that, there's one other big topic of today's NFL as opposed to your father's NFL. Streaming.
Yeah, that has changed the game.
So there's been massive changes to the way we watch sports in general, but definitely football recently.
YouTube, man.
YouTube TV now taking over the NFL Sunday Ticket, which was on DirecTV for the last 24 years, maybe something like that, where they had exclusive rights to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had it since my first home, in 2001. I've been a DirecTV customer because
of the NFL.
Because I wouldn't have had it otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, I would definitely not have, because it was just a little more of a hassle to go have a satellite and blah blah blah, all that crap. I had it because of football and because of getting every game. They've had it exclusively all that time, and now here they are starting a whole new thing on YouTube TV. And I've cut ties with DirecTV and have
off
the YouTube TV. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's definitely a different world, but it's the way of the world right now. And last year they started it with taking Thursday Night Football off of NFL Network and putting that on Prime. More money for the league, because it wasn't making them any money to have it on their own network.
Yep.
Right. So now here it goes. They put it on Prime, which I wasn't a huge fan of. I do have Prime, so it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
But man, for people that don't pay for Amazon Prime, that sucks.
Now you're going to lose a game, or you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that people, again, this is something I'm like, not to date myself, because I don't feel like I'm that old, but when we were younger, and especially if you were an Eagles fan, I mean, recent history, Eagles have had a good run. We've been a competitive franchise. Jeffrey Lurie has made this team a competitive franchise for a long time. There's a lot of Eagles fans that are 13, 14 years old who have not had the hard times. And going through the Richie Kotite years and going through, the Rodney Peete years, and the Eagles were so bad that the fan base of Philly is known for a lot of things, but they also have no tolerance, for the suck. And people stopped going to games. So what happened is the network blacked out the games, and the games were not broadcasted in the local region. So you might live someplace else in the country.
Had to be a sellout, right?
And give it was like 85% of tickets or something like that. It wasn't a sellout. So I enjoy, and we'd listen to a lot of games on the radio, and we'd be over there and we'd cram around the radio and we'd listen, to Merle on the radio, and that was how you listen to an Eagles game. So I like it. There's nothing more I like going to a bar than having the TV up and the radio on.
So weird.
Because I think the Eagles, it's just, Mike Quick, and it's good stuff.
Because you wanted the home broadcast.
Yeah, I like the home broadcast.
Home broadcast is the worst.
I don't
even want to hear the Steelers home broadcast.
Yeah, I love it. I love the home broadcast. But blacked out games were a thing. They were, and I don't know if you was a Pittsburgh fan, probably not, because you never lived in
experienced it. Was never
in the
lived
Pittsburgh
in the
market,
area,
right? So, but living as a Philly fan, you might go through a season where there might have been 3 or 4 games that were blacked out. So
I will say, if you have to be a fan of a team not living in their local network, the Steelers are one of the best ones to be because they are on TV a lot. Not in market, like for around the country, those other games, they're the game that comes on nationally broadcast at, 1:00 on CBS is Pittsburgh a lot. So, I mean, I always had it, until as a kid, until I started paying and got my own, Sunday ticket. It was, I did get to see a heck of a lot more than I would have if I was like, living in New Jersey as a, Cardinals fan or something.
Oh yeah.
I'd never see a game.
I mean, you're in the NFC, it was like you're getting Dallas all the time. It's just, but in North Jersey, I will say in North Jersey, they would rather show like a San Francisco or a Seattle or a Denver game than show an Eagles game.
Well, yeah,
that was living in North Jersey.
Intentional.
They were just like, we're going to show a game that nobody cares about because we hate the Eagles so much.
Yeah,
so
well, don't sit here and act like the Eagles, the Philly area wouldn't do the same for New York.
So, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about the preseason?
So, I'm about as amped up for a season as I've been in a long time. We had our string there of really nice seasons with with Ben and Bell and Antonio Brown, and those were exciting years, even though we wasted them and didn't win anything. But as those guys kind of the Brown thing fell apart and Bell held out, and then we ended up getting rid of him, and Ben just got old, and couldn't stay healthy, and you could tell was coming to the end of the line. Those years were a little stressful. I'm excited this year, man. I'm really excited for the young nucleus that we have. I'm excited to have what I believe is going to be the next franchise quarterback. I think we're going to be in a situation where we go a long time without struggling with quarterbacks like so many teams do. I really do think Kenny Pickett is the real deal, and I'm stoked about that. And, man, we had some really good offseason acquisitions this year. We really souped up the offensive line, stole one of your guys which I can't even say his name.
Sayamalo. Isaac Sayamalo. He was a great pickup for you guys, and he was kind of a salary cap casualty for us because we have Cam behind him, who is going to be our next up center. So it was like, we're going to put him at guard. He's going to play next to Jason Kelsey. So the Eagles have this whole thing going on, and unfortunately, business is business, and Isaac Sayamalo was shown the door, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, he was let go and picked up by us, and based on PFF, Pro Football, all those different companies that break down video and give grades and rankings. He's a top 5 guard in the league.
Your running game has changed,
and he's already showed it in the preseason. I'm stoked about that. We go out and we get. Our first pick is going to be a left tackle, and he might not even be playing right off the bat because the other kid who wasn't great last year is kind of like, stepped up with the competition, and he's had a good preseason. So I think they aren't going to have to start him right away. We already have studs from last year, and Pickens, who I think is going to have a monster breakout season as a wide receiver. Love our running backs. And the defense, is always good, and we have some studs over there. And I think we, added some depth and solidified the linebacking core and some things like that. I'm super stoked. We've looked, and it's preseason, so I'm trying not to get too excited because I know that better than anybody. But man, they've looked good. And when the ones have been out there, ones on ones for the brief time in the beginning of the games that it's been, they've looked really good and clicking. So I'm super excited, and I think we're going to surprise a lot of people this year. I think people are sleeping on them, and everybody wants to talk about Cincy and Baltimore in our division. And I guarantee you, I'll put money on it right now. Both of those teams aren't finishing ahead of us. Maybe we don't pull out the division title, but we're not finishing 3rd or 4th.
No,
that's my prediction right now. We're either winning that division and surprising people, or we're gonna be in like 2nd in that division.
I mean, week 1,
huge game.
Week 1, you got the Bucks. Week 1.
No, we don't. You keep saying that.
Who do we have?
You keep looking at preseason, bro. We got San Francisco.
Oh, you got San Francisco week 1.
Huge game.
Yeah.
And you guys, the last game they played was against you guys.
Yeah.
And you guys got that charity win because
everybody
was hurt.
We hurt quarterbacks because San Francisco couldn't.
Doesn't matter.
They couldn't game plan.
Still hurt.
They couldn't game plan.
Still hurt.
You don't block the one of the number 1 NFL rushers with a tight end. And then be upset.
Happens every week.
God.
Happens every week.
Yeah.
He's got to get rid of the ball, but
Again,
even still, it doesn't even matter.
Poor planning on your part does not denote a crisis on mine.
Well, bottom line is nobody's winning any games with a running back at quarterback. So
No. No.
But so you guys were the last ones to see them hurt the quarterback. Who I'm amazed he's back and is going to be starting week 1.
I'm kind of shocked.
Amazed.
I'm kind of shocked that he's back and he's starting week 1.
But I mean, he looks fine. He looks fine in the preseason.
He ain't been hit yet. We'll see.
Well, he's been hit. He's played a game. And that doesn't. The hits wouldn't matter. It's that arm and throwing the ball.
Yeah.
It was that elbow and the Tommy John thing. So, I mean, he's out there slinging it. They say he's fine. So, hey, I hope he gets hurt week 1 because that's what we're playing. And I'm not the one that's like, I hope everybody's healthy and play. No, I want to win.
Yeah, no.
If it's against your best, cool. If somebody gets hurt, cool. I don't care. Like it's part of the game.
I got
It's
nothing
part of the
for
game.
that. San Fran's been crying. San Fran fans have been crying over that game for an entire year. So.
Listen, if I was a fan, I'd be crying too. But at the same time, I mean, it's no one's fault. But it's part of the game, and that's why I think some of these teams sleep on having 3 game day quarterbacks.
Well, the rules are different now, so we can have quarterbacks now. That
We'll see.
The Eagles have set the defensive precedent for the league. Apparently,
They still don't have to have 3.
no.
I guarantee you, there's still guys that go out there with 2.
But your defense is looking pretty stacked, man. I got to tell you, it's T.J. Watt,
I mean,
Hayward. I mean, these guys are going to be good.
Watt's back healthy. Last year was a rough year getting hurt. Week 1, when he was having a killer game and making Joe Burrow look like a clown, because that's what he does. I mean, what quarterback has more interceptions thrown to you can call him a linebacker, but he's an edge rusher. How many times you gonna throw that thing right in his face and he jumps up and he's got like 3 against him that way as a rusher. So he was having a monster game. We won that game. But I mean, it was we kind of got lucky on winning that game because they missed. There's a bunch of field goal misses and all that crap. But yeah, I think it's stacked, man. We had a solid core to begin with, we were weak and at the linebacker spot, and I feel like they went out and got no like studs, no like top tier guys, but they filled in with like solid players, and we just need some solid play from that spot, and we'll be good because we got pass rushers, we got a really good defensive line. We're going to stop the run. We're going to get after the quarterback, and I'm looking forward to it.
You need Watt healthy.
T.J.
Watt.
Everybody needs their best player healthy.
T.J. Watt is to. It's not only about being the best player. I mean, I don't know if Lane Johnson's the best player that steps on the field.
He's not the best player on your team.
That's right, but
Watt might be the best player on our team.
When Lane Johnson is not in the game, we seem to not win. We seem to not be able to run the ball.
Understood, but you still can't compare a playmaker to an offensive lineman.
I'm not, but to the wins, those guys kind of mean a lot to the team.
So how did you do without him in the lineup?
Terrible. We do terrible without Lane Johnson. We do so.
You can't just say terrible. What's like the record?
I could pull it up, but we don't. I think we've won 1 game when he's been hurt that I know of.
Yeah, because we don't win when Watt doesn't play.
That's what I mean. It's like
is that kind of effect.
When Johnson's hurt, like we just don't win games, and it's almost like psychological. I feel like. To the point where we all know, we need Lane Johnson to stay healthy this year so we win some games. We all know this is the last year for Lane.
I feel like that's really weird to have a team where
the right tackle
an offensive lineman
is pinnacle.
So that's
I don't know what happens.
I mean, even the best of them, like it's still weird. You can compensate for that, even if it means your backup, tackle is getting help from people. Like you can compensate for that. But you can't compensate for losing 21 sacks.
No,
you know what I mean from one guy. So, or a whole bunch of interceptions from maybe a Deion Sanders or your quarterback. Like
you can't compensate for that. But equally, when Jalen's not in the game, we're not going to win a game.
Yeah, I mean
we kind of proved that.
There's not very many. There's really, you might be able to go 500 if he misses the time. But I'm saying any team in the league, there's not a team in the league that's going to just keep on rolling with their backup quarterback.
No.
Because you look at it, there's not even 32 really great quarterbacks. So to go deep into the second and third string, like nobody can win that way. That's why they've made the rules the way they've made them to try to protect these guys. Because no one can afford, and the league can't afford to not have Mahomes playing and not have, Josh Allen playing because of injury. They need them out there.
It's Yeah, it's last year we had Minshew, and no Minshew magic came to Philly. No Minshew. He did not bring the magical bus to Philly. It was, to me, it was a coaching debacle because there are some coaches that adapt to their players, and there are some coaches that make their players adapt to their system. And Minshew was not athletic enough, or just maybe good enough in general to adapt to the play that Jalen Hurts was giving the Eagles.
Yeah.
So
it's surprising to me though, because you guys do have a pretty stacked, you're solid everywhere. So to not be able to just kind of, kind of grit out some wins with a backup quarterback with that much talent around him is weird.
It's tough. I just think Minshew's just not good, but it was. And we're in a funny position this year because I think the offense is upgraded, even though we lost Miles Sanders, and I hate to see. As a Steelers fan, what it's like to get a good draft pick and then have them leave the team before they sign that contract, And Miles Sanders was one of those guys, he was due for a payday. And, to play a game of chicken with Howie Roseman, who does not value running backs on the pay scale at all. I mean, if anybody has set the NFL precedent for devaluing running backs, I feel like it's been Howie Roseman.
Well, I mean, the Eagles have been unwilling to run the ball since Andy Reid. So,
well, they led the league in rushing 2 years ago, so it's not that they haven't. Some of that's Jalen, but
Jalen and like 8 different running backs.
Well, yes,
but I said Andy Reid unwilling to run the ball. 2 years ago, you didn't have Andy Reid.
Andy Reid was terrible.
He just refused. Even when you had some solid running backs,
even when it was 3rd and 1 with a good running back with Westbrook in the backfield, Andy would find a way to have to throw a screen or do something.
But that's the league in the 2020s. They've completely devalued the position. That's why you see a lot of what's going on. These running backs are trying to band together and get paid more, but
it's not going to happen.
Not working, man. It's just, I mean, you look at the last string of Super Bowl winners, like who's had like the best running back or a top 5 running back. It's not that important.
No, and look at how the Eagles have the depth chart set up. This is hilarious, and I noticed this the other day when I was like, as we were going through the season,
I was
gonna
have to describe it.
Who's making so. Running back, depth charts are set up online. You look at first, second, third, and other is kind of how they have a lot of these teams, or first, second, third, and fourth. How a lot of teams have these depth charts, set up. The Eagles have on their first string Kenny Gainwell, Rashad Penny, Boston Scott, Trey Sermon, and DeAndre Swift. Nobody listed for second string, nobody listed for third string, and right now Kennedy Brooks, who I'm thinking is, if not already cut, going to be cut. So that's these guys are all that's our first string. Those 5 guys.
Stupid
carrying
games.
5 running backs.
Stupid games, man. Like, you're not fooling anybody.
No, you're
and
not.
It's just weird. And then not only that, but you should have cut that one dude already because you made him feel like the biggest piece of crap on the team
By putting him not even at second, just putting him way out here.
So you have 6 guys, you put 5 of them at first, and then you put him at other.
One at other.
Like, tell the guy you don't want him around without telling the guy you don't want him around. I would have left already. You don't need me here.
So, and speaking of games, this is something else I feel like Philly's doing right now. And when you look at Jalen Hurts just did not play in the preseason. It's just not going to happen, right? So we saw a little bit of Marcus Mariota. We saw some Tanner McKee, a little bit of Ian Brook. So all day long, Tanner McKee outplayed Mariota. Every game. It was like, it's not even close. But here we are going to the season with Mariota in the number 2 spot. And I feel like it's just a way, because I do feel like Tanner McKee has value. Will he have value to us? I don't know. Will he have value in a trade? I don't know. But it's like you've parked this guy at 3rd string for.
So, I think the game there is that they feel like they can hide Tanner McKee on the practice squad, but they can't do that with Mariota. If they try to throw him there, someone's scooping him up for their second.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the game they're playing there, and a lot of teams do that. They sometimes have to make that tough call and let like veterans go because there's a young talent they want to keep, and they don't feel like they can't hide him, and they know that if they try to, because I don't know if people don't know this, but when it comes to the way the rosters work, when you get down to your cut downs, to the 53-man roster, which they're right now working on. Tuesday at 4:00 is the deadline to go from like 90 players in camp to 53.
53, yeah.
So all you have, I think it's 12 or 13 slots now for a practice squad. But what happens is you have to release them first, and they have to clear waivers, which means if another team wants to sign them to their 53, then they can, and you'll lose them. So then once they clear that waiver process, then you sign them back to your practice squad. So what happens is, you might have an older veteran that maybe isn't as, sought after in the league because he's been around forever and he's just older. And then there's this young talent, and you got to make that decision on, do you think if you release this young guy, is he going to make it back to my roster? Am I going to be able to get him back before somebody snags him up? And that's the tough decisions that I wouldn't want to be a GM. The tough decisions they got to make.
It's tough, man.
It's hard.
The pressure that they're under. You know what's funny is, I learned a lot about what you just said, crazy enough, from TikTok, from watching Isaac Rochelle. I don't know if you know who Isaac Rochelle is. Isaac Rochelle, his wife, Allison Cooch, is famous enough.
Sorry, what?
Allison Cooch, Kuch. Cooch.
Interesting.
Oddly enough, I feel like she's probably more famous than him, to the point where they call him, Isaac Cooch. But it's a tough nickname. But he was who was he with? He was with the Colts. He's been with a couple of different people. He's now with the Raiders, and he just put out a TikTok today, kind of explaining like this week and like kind of what the players are going through, and if they get released, like what's it mean. And he kind of does the same stuff every year from his perspective, and that's his wife, how she built her account, like from a family's perspective of what these family members go through, as far as knowing where they're going to live and not seeing each other, and how these living, not that life is terrible for them by any means, because they are getting paid, but there are challenges, especially to relationships that
relationships, and then
have.
guys that have kids,
it's tough.
Are they going to be staying in the school they're in, or are we going to be uprooting them and taking them across the country?
Right.
As military kids, we can understand that. It is tough.
But I think people have like crazy picks for the Eagles this year, and I was looking at this schedule, and I mean, week 1 we've got New England, who, although they're not picked to be as good this year, is never a throwout. And, down the stretch, we've got KC, Buffalo, San Fran, Dallas. I mean, this stretch of games, people have like thrown out crazy stuff, like they expect the Eagles to win 14 and go 14-3 again. I honestly think we win the NFC East with like an 11-win season. I don't see us, because as good as our offense is, our defense has been downgraded.
Listen, that's a first place schedule right there. That's what you're dealing with. You go first, you win. You're in first place. You go to the NFC Championship. That's what you deal with, and your division is tough enough as it is.
Yeah,
right. Just even when the teams aren't good in that division, like it's just.
I feel like
it's tough.
Anybody's divisional games are tough. I don't
always
care. The teams, they know each other better. The players know each other better. The tackles know the ends better. The guards know the linebackers better. The receivers know the D-backs better. Like, these guys know each other's habits.
Now you're throwing in the AFC East, which people think three of those teams could make the playoffs.
You ain't kidding. You ain't kidding.
And then you throw in that stretch of Kansas City and Buffalo. Oh, man.
All these teams. I mean, listen, New England's no throwout. Everybody's kind of disregarding them this year, and I think it's a dangerous place to put Bill Belichick if you're not on his side, is to just tell him he's going to be the worst team in the division. That's a dangerous place to put Belichick. I mean,
maybe, but until he wins something without Brady, I'm not all that
I don't know. I mean,
I'm kind of second guessing.
The legacy is the legacy.
The legacy is tied to somebody else who won a Super Bowl without him.
Mm-hmm. True story.
So I don't know.
But listen,
that's a tough schedule, man.
The Jets, man, not for nothing. This could be the Jets' year.
It could be.
The Jets were like right. I feel like the Jets were like a component or two away last year, and you put Aaron Rodgers in the biggest media outlet in the world, and I don't think he's going to not perform.
Well, so far his career has almost mirror imaged Brett Favre's.
Yeah.
So if that continues, Jets aren't winning.
No.
If you recall what happened with the Jets the year he went there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was lighting it up, and was an MVP candidate and got hurt down the stretch. And that is the dilemma you have when you bring in an old quarterback to take over, and that's you're banking everything on this dude. And they could light it up, but all it takes is one injury with an old guy.
I feel like this is a better Jets team than Favre had.
That team was rolling, and maybe it is, but it don't matter.
Yeah.
Are they winning without him?
Are they going to win without
Rodgers?
No.
He gets hurt.
No.
Doesn't matter what they got there.
No, if they could win without Rodgers, they wouldn't have paid him to come
Because
there.
you're right back to Zach Wilson.
Yeah, exactly.
Who has looked.
And I think the other thing is, I feel like this is going to be the year we're going to see if Buffalo is real.
Buffalo's been real. Buffalo's been real. Buffalo's had to go battle against Kansas City.
They should have won that playoff game last year. They got outplayed.
Last year.
Yeah.
Which playoff game?
Who did they? Was it the Browns that beat them? No, it was the Bengals. Bengals beat them. Bengals beat.
So
them
you're
last
talking
year.
about
I don't know.
the three teams that have basically been the favorite in the AFC for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Kansas City, Buffalo,
Yeah.
and Cincinnati. Like somebody's going to lose.
Oh, somebody is going to lose.
You know,
it ain't gonna be
when
Kansas.
they play each other.
It ain't going to be Kansas City.
It could be Kansas City.
Yeah, we'll see.
It could be Kansas. You can only pretend that you don't need studs for so long because you have one quarterback before it comes back to haunt you.
Yeah, I know.
And he also has a tendency to get banged up.
I know.
So
what are you thinking for Super Bowl this year?
Super Bowl predictions? That's hard, man.
It is hard.
It's always hard to say. But I mean, it's so easy to say Kansas City. I don't feel like the NFC is strong. And if I hadn't just looked at your schedule, I would throw you guys in there.
Our schedule's tough.
I could see the NFC Championship coming back down to San Francisco and Philly again.
I could see that.
And then, where is it at and who's the healthiest?
Yeah.
Right?
I can see that.
So I can see either of those two in there. If I had to pick one, I would say San Fran. And the reason I would say that is because it's so common for Super Bowl losers to have a setback the next year. It's hard to do that 2 years in a row after having that letdown of a loss.
It's hard to go to the championship game two years in a row. Eagles have done it in the past, and they haven't won any of those championship games. But it's never been after a Super Bowl, I feel like. So it's the other tough thing I feel like is teams usually really get dismantled after a Super Bowl, and I don't feel like we have been dismantled as
not at
most
all.
teams, and that's really what hurts people. Like, the Saints, when that Saints team went to the Super Bowl, like I feel like that team was totally dismantled the year after, and they just haven't been competitive.
What's
since.
the winners that get dismantled, and
Yeah, there you
guys
go.
didn't win.
Well, did KC get dismantled? I don't think so.
They lost people. They have the
know?
last few years. They lose Hill going into last year. They lose. They lost Juju, and they lost more receivers. Juju and
Losing Juju is big.
who's the other one that went to New York? Mecole Hardman.
Oh yeah.
Lost him, so they got a bunch of new. They got Sky Moore, I think, and some other young guys at receiver. But that's what they do. They act like, well, we don't really. It doesn't matter who we throw out there at receiver because we have Patrick Mahomes. No look Mahomes. Like, we'll see. They're having issues with their best defensive player right now is a holdout. And people say what they want, and yeah, he'll show. But man, how many times has a guy not done anything in camp and come in and have one of those muscle injuries, one of those hamstrings, or one of those
not great seasons.
one of those Achilles, something, just the same thing with Nick Bosa and San Fran, man. I mean, I know he's a chiseled specimen, but you don't get that work, and then you come in and you got to go full speed week one.
Yeah,
Things happen.
You're not invincible, man.
Things happen, but I don't know. I would say, if I had to predict, I would say San Fran again, and I think they win the NFC Championship this time. And then, man, the AFC is so tough because
you can't not pick the Steelers. I think you guys go deep into the playoffs.
I think we go deep into the playoffs too, and I think we could possibly. And yes, I'm biased, but I really think we're going to surprise people. I can see us. I don't see us going to the Super Bowl. I can see, And hey, maybe Kenny does it and he follows in Ben's footsteps and goes to Super Bowl in his second year. But I see us maybe losing in the AFC Championship game or the second round. I think they get at least one win finally. We haven't won one in a while.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say which one of those three is so even.
It's tough.
I feel like I think it could be Buffalo.
Yeah.
Even with all their little, they got some controversy and Diggs supposedly isn't happy and wants out. I mean, that's what Stephen A. Smith says anyway. But I don't know. I just feel like it keeps kind of going around and around in circles with Cincinnati and Kansas City and Buffalo. And I just don't. It's so hard to repeat in the Super Bowl. And I believe the year before, did they go 2 years in a row and lose the year before? Or was there a gap in there?
I'm not sure. I think there might have been a gap in there.
I'm trying to think of what AFC team would have been in there.
I think it was them.
I think it might have been them, and they
no,
lost.
it was San Diego. No,
Cincinnati.
it was
Cincinnati. They lost to the Rams.
Chargers won. Oh, the Rams won. No, it was the Rams.
It was the Rams. They beat Cincinnati in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was the Rams.
So you had Cincinnati go the year before. You had Kansas City the year before. Then you had
Yeah.
Cincinnati. Then you had Kansas City again. It's
Yeah,
it's so hard to keep doing it, man.
It is. I got to tell you, in a perfect world, a perfect world, I would love to see. And I don't know that we're going to make it because I think because of schedule, I think the NFC Championship game is probably going to be in San Francisco. And I think that those fans are going to be ready for Philly to come to town, and it's going to be a game that we may not win. But
have you looked at their schedule though?
No, but I can.
Because they got a first place schedule too.
Yeah, well, they didn't get a first place schedule and came to the NFC East because they got Dallas, the Giants, and Washington. So,
Well, Seattle's no slouch. They got to play them.
No, Seattle's no slouch, and the Cardinals are. I don't know what the
Cardinals suck.
I don't know what the story of the Cardinals is, but what's their schedule? In a perfect world, though, I would like to see Eagles Jets.
Yeah. I might be drunk before kickoff of that Super Bowl.
Be drunk before kickoff. I would love to see Eagles Jets, man.
Geez.
So regular season, they've got you. They've got the Rams, Giants, Cardinals, Dallas, the Browns,
Cleveland.
Yep.
Minnesota, Cincinnati,
Tough.
Jacksonville, playoff team. Tampa sucks. Seattle, playoff team. Philly,
Yep.
playoff team. Seattle again.
They made the playoffs last year, right?
Baltimore.
Were they a wild card?
Arizona, no.
No. Seattle.
Seattle made it, yeah.
Yeah. Washington finished.
They don't have that many freaking gimmies on that either, dude.
No.
So, shoot.
No. Cardinals. They got the Cardinals twice, but we got the Commanders twice. So
It's
yeah.
It's not an easy schedule. They got a tough one too, man. They got a tough one too.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's what happens when you win your division, and you get that first place schedule, and
Yeah.
it's never easy, and that's why so many times, someone that wasn't really expected to go far can sometimes because they get an easier schedule during the season and get some wins going. I don't know.
I feel
I'm
like
excited about it.
I feel like come the first week of January, we're gonna have to recap this to see if we were off about our predictions. But
So who do you think wins the MVP?
this year, who wins
Yep.
MVP? Jalen. I think Jalen Hurts wins it. I mean, I think that he's got his contract. He's got a long-term contract. A lot of that pressure is off. If Swift stays healthy and this running back by committee plays out the way that Howie Roseman and, the coaching staff seems to think that it's going to play out, I think Jalen could have a banner year. I mean, this guy, he threw, his first quarterback to throw for 3,000 yards.
If your
as a
wish
rookie.
comes true, and you guys play the Jets, Rodgers wins it. And that's just because they love doing that. A guy has a name, so they did that with the defense, with the defensive player of the year with Aaron Donald.
Oh, and the Super Bowl MVP. You're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the season MVP.
Oh, season MVP. Yeah.
That means he had a really good year if they make it to the Super Bowl.
Well, it was funny.
Rodgers.
Everybody was so upset that Hurts didn't win MVP last year, and and all this stuff. And I couldn't have been happier about it because there was some thread of me that was like, hey, maybe it won't make him the highest paid player in NFL history. But regardless, he became the highest paid player in NFL history for like 2 weeks. And then somebody else was paid more. I forget who signed a contract after him that was paid more. But it's...
I don't know. I'd be worried if I were you.
Why?
Running quarterbacks, man.
Ah, man.
Just
seen that guy's legs? Holy shit.
yeah, well,
Christ.
that's great, but
And-
injuries
I
are
don't know.
inevitable.
I think he's smarter, though. I feel like he is...
Why do they not pay running backs anymore?
I know.
They
right?
get hurt too much.
But I feel like Jalen doesn't take as many hits when he runs. I feel like he's out of bounds. I feel like he slides a lot. I don't feel like he's like Wentz, where Wentz was like diving head first to get first downs that really didn't mean all that much. And granted, the play that I think ruined Wentz's career was him diving for a touchdown and like this knee injury on a hit that still, like, you look at this hit and it's like, how did that injury happen?
I remember it.
But that play essentially ruined his career. He was never the same after that. He was never the same athlete. He was never the same, I don't think he was the same mentally. He certainly wasn't the same physically. It just ruined him. And, I feel like, I hope anyway, or at least it looks like from his play, that Jalen is a little bit smarter than that and not sacrificing himself to stuff that, Kenny Pickett's no slouch, though. I mean, he'll run the ball.
Yeah,
He's
but
no
it's
Ben.
No,
where was
God,
Ben
no.
going?
He's Kenny Pickett's extremely athletic and a lot faster than he looks, but
I think you were outrunning Ben.
probably was. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really excited for it. I think we both have teams that are gonna, be exciting this year, make some noise, and I'm just excited in general. There's a lot going on in the league, and there's a lot of good storylines and good
Huge.
players, and
Yeah.
I just hope that they can let these guys play, because it's been getting really, 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 really soft.
Yeah.
Now, my question I asked the guys at my fantasy draft the other day the same question: what's the over under on games that are canceled in the middle of a game because of an injury?
Oh man,
Because they set the precedence last year. Now you've already had it in the preseason this year, and it's ridiculous in my mind. Ridiculous in my mind.
I don't know.
But this is the new woke, soft world we live in. Someone gets hurt, and we can't possibly go on with our jobs today. We have to go home and think about it.
I can't wrap
mourn.
my head around canceling games over injury.
And
I-
and last year, I don't want to sound insensitive. That never happened before. This, some sort of cardiac incident on the field. That's a whole nother world. But
Yeah.
how many guys over the years have been paralyzed on the field?
Yeah,
Who broke their neck?
game's never been canceled.
And games never be canceled. But now they set that precedent last year.
Mm-hmm.
Any serious injury, I feel like now is going to be like, we all got to go home and we got to think about it and we got to talk about it and we got to see how we feel and talk about our feelings. And
College football, when Eric LeGrand got paralyzed on the Rutgers field, the game was not canceled.
it's,
So
I know I sound insensitive, but that's just the world I come from, the time that we grew up playing.
yeah,
And it's just you can go too far with anything. You can go too far, and I just think like we're getting really soft.
I hope we don't have any games canceled for that.
Bad enough, that we're already like every year we have the threat of having to move a game or cancel a game because of hurricanes down south. You deal with that. And,
That's a
and I
legit,
get it.
That's a legit, like, if you can't play during an emergency, like a weather
I get
emergency.
it. It's bigger. It's bigger than it's safety of all the fans and everything. I get it, but as the fan ready to watch that crap, I'm just like, come on, man,
tired of it.
Just get out there and play. Stop being little girls.
Yeah, I'm tired of it.
Now I just offended all the women watching,
You have.
listening.
So, well, that's where I'm at. I'm an 11-win season, winning the NFC East and not having the bye, but hosting the wild card game is kind of where I think we'll be. I think out of the NFC, who wins that division? I don't know if it's going to be the 49ers. I feel like it may be a team that kind of comes out of the woodwork.
There's a
And,
lot of people saying Dak is looking amazing.
F these people, the Cowboys. The Cowboys.
Well, you can't just
come on,
downplay somebody
man.
because you don't like them. Like,
I
can't sit here and say Cincinnati's not going to be good just because I hate them. Like,
Well, I can downplay Dak that I'm happy he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys because he's just not that good.
I don't know if I
He's just-
agree with you.
He's just listen. If
I
he,
don't think he's amazing, but I don't think he's been their biggest problem at all
well,
lately.
clearly Jerry Jones was like, we were looking at Jalen, but he fell before our draft spot. So clearly,
Well, everybody's
the-
always looking to upgrade.
the faith in Dak is not there. And then what did the Dallas Cowboys just do?
Well, that wasn't around the time frame when Dak had that bad injury too, though.
Yeah, but what did the Cowboys do this week?
In the preseason,
Yeah, they just got what's his face in the 49ers. Who's-
yeah, you have to, dude. That has nothing to do with what they think about Dak.
Oh yeah,
Nothing at
No?
all to do with it. No.
No?
You're always trying to make the back end of your roster as strong as possible, and they got this kid for peanuts compared to what San Fran paid for him.
San Fran. I think this is the biggest draft bust in the history of the NFL.
Who was the backup behind Dak? Who is the backup behind Dak?
I
It's
don't
illustrated.
know. I know.
Exactly.
I've heard his. Well, I don't know the backups of a lot of guys, but yeah, no, I don't know.
Point being, they're always trying to make him better. Just because they traded for him doesn't mean that they don't think highly of Dak. It just doesn't work that way. Well, why in the world did the Eagles bring in Marcus Mariota? Did they not like Jalen Hurts?
Because they just.
They needed depth behind him.
Oh my God, and Mariota's not a starter.
Mariota is not a backup.
Yeah.
He is terrible.
Oh no, I think Mariota's terrible.
Terrible.
I thought Minshew. I thought Minshew was terrible.
And whole nother rant on this, and people might not have watched that quarterback show on what? And Netflix, I think.
I didn't watch it.
It was good. It was, or maybe it was Prime. I don't remember what it's on, but they followed 3 quarterbacks last season, and they did kind of a series, a show on it, and it was Mahomes, and it was Kirk Cousins, and it was Mariota. Not only can the guy not play, but he also has no personality whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think he's good.
It was just brutal watching him, and it's been the same thing since he came in the league. He's got all this, like potential, but he just craps the bed every chance he gets.
No, I mean Tennessee was over it.
Every time he gets an opportunity, he throws some pick or he fumbles a shotgun snap or just something stupid.
Yeah, I mean
not
the
good.
Eagles are in a roster position where their second string quarterback position is they're not going to pay somebody. I mean they've got too much money wrapped up in these lines, and
can't, and
a lot of teams do, but it's
Backup quarterbacks don't make any money. Well, I mean,
again, like
they
I
make
said,
great money, but
they have the best job in the NFL as far as I'm
Best.
concerned. They have these. I mean, look at
if you don't have a huge ego, it's the best job in the world.
oh my God, it is by far. Look at Doug Peterson.
Wear a baseball hat.
Doug Peterson was a career backup to Brett Favre. He had a long career, stayed healthy, learned a ton.
There's still guys in the league. Case Keenum right now,
came out and coached and won a Super Bowl.
And if you saw what they've made over the course of their career, you'd be like, "Holy crap, what a great
Yep.
gig that was!"
For wearing the headphones, giving hand signals,
And coming out of it healthy, retiring healthy. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, this is something I could ramble on and on and on for. This could be a 7-hour episode if we just sat here
How do you
and
know
talked
where we're
football. And I know we're probably longer than any of the other ones have been because, again, I could talk about this all day. But I'm looking forward to the season. I hope we didn't bore the non-football fans.
Yeah.
Definitely give us a comment on anything we touched on today. If you want to just talk about why you don't watch the NFL anymore, or why you hate the NFL, or who your favorite team is, and what you think they're doing, whatever you're watching it on, there's a way to leave a message. So let us know.
Heck yeah. And if you're watching on the YouTube, you made it this far, you probably already subscribed if you made it this far, but give us a little subscribe and follow us on whatever podcast platform that you are listening to and give us a rating.
Yeah.
We prefer the 5-star type, but whatever suits your fancy.
And again, you got something you want to hear us talk about, shoot us an email at thisamericanride1776@gmail, and we will look at that, and maybe it's something we can talk about on here.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you in the next one.
See you next time.
Later.
Bye.